Today is Saturday, June 4th, 2022, and you're listening to Narratives from the Black Diaspora and Beyond. Creating your own music is a multi-step process, and often as fans, we only get to see the finished product, right? And so it was really compelling and eye-opening to sit down with an amazing dynamic DJ slash producer slash music enthusiast and slash audiophile and really get to pick his brain a little bit about what got him into the music industry and why he's so passionate about the work that he does. So I really hope that you enjoy this episode as much as I did creating it.
My name is Isaiah. Professionally, my stage name is Lit Lords. You can call me Isaiah, that's fine. I prefer that actually, we're not superheroes. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas.
Some DJs produce their own music and others exclusively mix songs made by other artists. How do you perceive yourself on the spectrum of DJs?
If I were to be able to be a little bit presumptuous, I'd say I go from the standpoint of being an artist where I can play other people's music live and mix them in a creative way in my interpretation. But I also create my own music, and that is sort of what my emphasis is. And when it comes to performing music live, it's more so my original music that gets performed live. And once again, my own interpretation of it. And I feel like the show standpoint is just a snapshot of, where I'm at artistically, to be able to convey that to the audience. So I'd say more, it's like a mixture of both.
Is there a specific genre you work with the most for both your self-produced material and the ones you mix?
Well, the fans, they would call it hard trap. Hard trap music is a mixture of hard style music and trap music combined into the two. I've kind of started in that zone and I've kind of branched out, and I take influences from a lot of different genres. And so I say I just create music, I'm interested in so many different avenues of music. But if you were to put me in a box for a moment, then I'd say it'd be bass music, hard trap.
What sparked your initial interest in DJing? Were you inspired by a person or a specific life event?
Well, before I got into making more trap music and bass music oriented things, I was producing house music. And I was really inspired by Carl Cox and the Defected Records movement and a lot of the stuff going on in Europe. And I would watch the DJ Mag. Pioneer used to have a show where they might still do it, they would bring in a lot of house DJs, and that you would see them mixing this music. And I was just inspired by that. And it kind of got me into doing that. And I kind of veered off as the years went by into more of the bass music-y sort of thing. But it all started off with really just kind of house music kind of stuff. Carl Cox is a huge inspiration for me as far as DJing goes.
When did you first start to create music? Do you remember how old you were or the year time frame?
Oh man, this was probably around 2012, 2013. I started off playing the guitar, and I said to myself, I want to make my own guitar song. And I went to the store and I asked the guy, I said, how can I make my own guitar song? And he's like, well, here you can get this little interface, and, you plug the guitar in, and it came with this software called Ableton Live. And Ableton Live is software for creating music, similar things, Logic, FL Studio, stuff like that. And I started playing around with it and making my own guitar songs, and kind of started from there. How old was I? In 2013? Golly, I had to be maybe 14, 13, something around there. I had to do the math, not my strong suit. A lot of people, they get into this and they might be in their 20s, or they might be mid-20s, 30s. And at that point, it becomes really, really difficult, especially if you're trying to do this as a career, because it's like there's this stage where you have to figure it out, where it's like you're figuring out your sound, you're figuring out what music creation even is, and it takes a lot of steps and stages and years, to be quite frank, before it becomes something where it's like, okay, I can focus on the creative aspect because I have down the business model, because it is a business, you know. So yeah, I was very fortunate to be able to start at a very young age.
Oh, real quick, could you please explain what Ableton is? I know it's like a software, but many listeners are not familiar with this one in particular.
Ableton Live, like I said, it's a music creation software where if I have samples, let's say if I, to put this in the most layman terms I can think of, if I were to go outside and record a bunch of people saying like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I took all those samples back and I took it back here to the workstation, and you could take those samples and you could put them into Ableton, and you could pitch them up and down. You can make it high pitch. You can make it low pitched, and so you can have samples. They have instruments built into the software, like a piano, synthesizer stuff, virtual stuff, and you can create a palette of different sounds, and it creates music. So yeah, it's not the easiest thing to learn, but with time and dedication, it's something that is very, very rewarding. Yeah, and like I said, that Ableton Live is just one software. There's FL Studio, which is widely known, Logic, Pro Tools. So everybody just pick your poison. You can score film through Ableton because you can load in videos, and a lot of film composers, they use Ableton Live because you can load in a video and you can have it playing in a section of the screen. And this is what composers use to get the feeling, because how are you going to score film if you can't see it? So you can be able to sync everything up and get all the sounds in place right and in sync. So that's a good thing. But as far as editing video, no, you'd have to go maybe Final Cut, Adobe Premiere, and Audition like yourself.
When you first shared with your family and friends that you wanted to be a DJ, what was their initial reaction? Were they pretty supportive, a bit skeptical, maybe a little bit of both?
Well, I come from a family of athletes. My mom was an Olympian. My dad is a coach for Team USA in track and field. So I come from a very competitive athletic background, and I was in sports growing up all throughout my childhood. And I told them I was gonna, I wanted to go through this music thing. Of course, at first it started off, okay, that's just a hobby. Sure, my parents are very supportive. You want to go have fun, and they wanted to have me involved in as many different things as possible while growing up, while my mind was still able to, accept a lot of different ideologies and stuff like that. So yeah, that was fine. It started off as a hobby, but as it kind of got more serious and they saw, okay, he's trying to, do something with this, and it's my dad, he thought it was sort of a pipe dream, because it's like, oh, and he's, he doesn't know anything about dance music. He's like Skrillex, Calvin Harris, DJ Snake. That's all he knew.
He's lost.
You Google EDM, and back then it was like, yeah, Calvin Harris is the first thing that pops up. It's like, oh, you want to be like Calvin Harris? I'm like, no, Dad, I don't want to be like Calvin Harris. He was like, he didn't know what to think of it for a long time. And today he's one of my biggest supporters, and I got to give it to him. He stepped off the ledge and really supported me without himself really even knowing it. He got me a lot of the gear that has really helped me become as proficient as I am today. My mom, she was always a supporter. She was like, you know what, son, you go and do your thing. So she was always a supporter. I really had to prove it to my dad though, So, but today he's like the proudest person, because your parents, they just want to make sure that you're getting what's best for you and you're on a path that's going to, bring you stability, which is the biggest thing for them. Because this is an industry that is not really stable, if you leave it into the hands of the norm. So creating that stability is one of the biggest hurdles for any artist. But yeah, things are going good today.
What about your friends? Were they like, yeah,
Oh man, I was a loner growing up, man. I mean, I had three friends all throughout my life. Met them in 2005. Still know all three of them to this day, and that's pretty much the only three people that that I could say If I had to give them $10,000 and say, hey, hold on to this, I know I'll get my $10,000 back. It's people you can trust like that, but also people that understand you. But it was one of those things where I was always the guy in the back of the room, locked into his computer screen, and nobody knew what the heck I was doing, but I was on a mission, and those same people today, they in my DMs. So, because a lot of people don't really get focused on something, or discover what they want to do, or what their passion is, discover what they can give to the world. It's something that a lot of people don't ever discover, or some people discover very late, or later on in life. And I was one of the people. I was fortunate to realize I was passionate about something, and kind of work that into my life at a very young age, and I focused on it from a very young age. But just because I was passionate about it, I didn't know. I just kind of when you get enveloped in something, it just kind of becomes your lifestyle, and it become my lifestyle all throughout high school and all throughout college. I was just go to class, come back, get on the computer. So, but yeah, it's you want to be good or you want to be great. Looking at it now, back then it was just you're having fun, but little do you know, in the back of your head you're getting better, because practice makes permanent.
You said something about it being a way of life. Are you essentially saying that being a DJ is your lifestyle, or does it go beyond that for you?
Not the lifestyle that one might portray on social media as of being a DJ. I hate going to shows, to be quite frank with you.
What?
It's just so
Really?
much of a hassle, because a lot of people don't see everything that goes on behind the scenes of it. What it takes to get to that stage is a pain in the butt, and especially now with the current times, and everything is just so up in the air. Your flight will get delayed, your flight will get canceled, there. And then people are just so ignorant or so obnoxious. It's just it gets harder and harder all the time. It's just the whole process behind it now. I mean, I love going up there and performing my music, and seeing the look on people's faces and the reactions. That's golden. That's something that's irreplaceable, and the memories that you're able to create for people is just second to none. Now, I guess I could rephrase my statement. I hate the process of doing shows. Now once you're there, it's an amazing thing. I tend to ramble, so.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I forgot it too, because I like this answer a lot. Now I remember. I asked, is being a DJ a lifestyle? And you're right. It's not the way that some people portray on social media. Like, some folks are like so used to, and this isn't to hate on bigger DJs, right? But when we hear those words, there are certain people that come to mind. I don't even have to name them. I'm sure like mainstream folks know like who I'm talking about. And so they see that lifestyle and they think all the DJs are living like that. And I'm like, no, a lot of them started showing like behind the scenes of like you said, the lead up.
Yeah, it's a lot. Now, as far as like doing the lights and all that, that's all pre-prepared for the most part. For 99% of people, except for like special shows where people will bring a video DJ, as we call them, and they'll coordinate together, and it's sort of a duo performance. Now he's an unseen hero. He or she is an unseen hero, and they're just coordinating the lights. But it's somebody personally who is doing something. But usually all that is prepared. A lot of people have teams around them, and all this stuff gets set up in advance, and everything is just smooth. For the most part, I just walk on the stage, and and press play, and do my thing. I don't have a big team around me. It's just myself and an agent, and that's about it. I don't have a management team or all these people in my ear. A lot of these people are very, very spoon fed when it comes to everything with their careers, and that's a whole other rabbit hole. But the process, there's a process, but there's not really a process. You just get there, but it's like the taxing part of it on your mental and physical health that can just become taxing over time. And then especially if you're somebody who likes okay, I wake up at this time, I'm doing this at this time. Somebody who's very like that, you get to go to the airport, and you're worried, worrying. A lot of this stuff is in the hands of other people, so to speak. You got to catch Uber. Is the Uber going to show up? You got a driver. This is my driver for the day. This is the contact. I went to San Francisco this past Saturday. My driver didn't show up for the pickup time when I got there, and he didn't show up to drop me off at the airport when it was time to leave. It's a little thing. So it depends on the type of person you are, but it can become very taxing. Now, to circle back to your the core of the question, a lot of my hobbies, I guess my only real hobby is music creation. I'm very, very passionate about creating music, and that's what I do almost 24 hours a day when I don't have to do other things related to the Lit Lords project. I love to create music, and I love getting that music out there to the people. Um, so if that's, you could say that's sort of my way of life.
I like that answer. I like all of it, even if you're saying you're rambling. I like all of it. It's good, because I'm always curious about how people who create music live and what motivates them. And it's just very interesting to hear about. And it's, like it's sort of like a bare bones approach. Like you're just like, I want to make good music and give good music to the
You
people.
know, the industry is so bland right now, and I feel like it's probably always been bland. Now that I'm kind of deeper into the industry, and I, know certain people, and I know how things are being ran, and I know how things have been being run. I think it's such a boring place. And you've got the people on the outside, on the very, very surface of everything, and let's go to EDC, let's go to Ultra, and it's just that's all they know. And then as you kind of dive deeper down this rabbit hole, you'll just see the monotony of it and the politics of it, and it's everything is so far away from music now that it's shameful, and it's just, man. But like I always say this to a lot of other artists and a lot of people coming up, everything comes back to the music. You want to do shows, but I say a show is a snapshot in time. As a human being, you want to have something to your name that transcends time. And for an artist, for a painter, that's their paintings, that's their art. For a musical artist, that's their music. You go back and look at a Michael Jackson song, "Pretty Young Thing," that's gonna live to the end of time. You look at Bach Symphony 9, it's gonna live to the end of time. It's they doing something that transcends time, and it's not just a snapshot in time. Now you could say you have a special show, you did a charity, okay, that's gonna transcend because you're helping somebody's life in the long run. So things like that. But for the majority, something that you can control 100% of the time for the most part and really contribute would be your music, your art.
This is like a perfect like segue into the next question, because you've mentioned some things that aren't quite right or easy, entering the music industry. What are some challenges that you've encountered during DJing? Have you reached personal milestones and goals?
I gotta think about this one, even though I already saw the question. I would say the politics of the industry, because everything is political. Everything is who or scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, or favoritism, or like I said, everything is so far from the music, and everything is so far from talent. And I think that is good to an extent, to a very, very small extent. You could have somebody who's talented that might not be ready to get on that stage, or that might not be ready for this opportunity. That's completely normal. When you go to when somebody gets drafted to the NBA, they're not just going to be, those first couple of games aren't going to be their best games. So I think that sort of gatekeeping is essential to a very, very small extent, but it's very, very toxic. So I'd say the biggest challenge, and it doesn't really challenge me anymore because I've taken, and this kind of ties into the second half of the question, an approach from, my goals and milestones in my career as a musician and artist. I don't have an aspiration to go play EDC. I don't have an aspiration to go and play Ultra Music Festival or all these things, because if you ask all these ask 10 other artists, I guarantee you, maybe 7 out of the 10 of them, I want to play EDC, I want to play Ultra Music, I want to do this. But that's nothing really tangible. That's not really an end goal thing. Like for me, like I've realized over the years that I like talking about the creation of music, and people like listen hearing me talk about the creation of music. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can teach people about music creation, and that's going to not only bring up another generation of kids coming up to, that are going to create music, and surpass myself, it opens up a whole other thing. And that's something, like I said, that's going to transcend time, the imprint that you're able to make on people, real life people. That's not just sort of a snapshot in time. So I feel like teaching is one of my milestones, and that's can be expanded in a number of ways, as far as we're bringing institutionalizing it, as far as almost a school sort of thing or an online platform. And then also my goal is to just be the best, especially be the best in my field, because like I said, this music stuff is it's so boring now. You've got these guys, these huge artists that are these guys, they come out and they drop a song every 8 months, every 6 months. What are you doing? I know you're not doing anything, because look what's going on in the world. I look at a lot of people and I'm like, how are you making your money? How are you getting by? And especially a lot of these people, they're signed to a label. They'll say you have a manager, you have an agent, and you have a label. All of those entities they're in the pot. But see, I'm going off into a whole other thing. Milestone, I want to be the best. Like, you see Luffy back there from One Piece, nobody's going to stop him from being the king of pirates. That's how I feel about this music thing. When it comes to what I do musically, nobody's going to come close to it. And that's just the competitive nature inside of me. And it's a challenge all the time, because I don't want to face weak people. I want to face strong people. I want to talk to people who know what they're talking about when it comes to music. And when they put out something, I want to feel intimidated. I want to feel challenged. And then that's just going to put out good music. Usain Bolt he wasn't always the fastest person in the world, So you got to have the challengers, and that's what pushes people to greatness, So that's an important thing for me, at least.
Who else is going to push you like you? Really?
Oh, no, nobody.
You have to be there. And it's not to say you don't have anyone supporting you. That's not what it's about. It's about really making sure that you're honoring the goals and expectations you set for yourself, because that's the stuff you can actually control.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So right now on your phone or on your laptop, wherever, how many playlists do you think you have stored? And as an audiophile, do you have a favorite music app?
Well, on my phone, I don't have any playlists except for when I used to produce house music under another name. I would make these house mixes, and I did about 50 of them. And my mom, she has all 50 of them, of course. And when I went to visit her a couple months ago, she forced me to put a couple of those mixes onto my phone. So the only things, they're not really a playlist, but it's, I guess, the only music I have on my phone would be these mixes from an older time of myself. And man, they're so good. It's just house music mixes. And it's just, man, so whenever I hop in the car, just Apple Music starts playing, and it just goes to my library and they just start playing. It's just so good. So that's pretty much all I have. And then I've got there's a This Is Lit Lord's playlist on Spotify. It's not on my phone technically, because you can't really put anything on an iPhone these days. But yeah, so I've got that, but that's just because it's a playlist I manage, and people listen to it, and I want to keep the songs in rotation. So that's about it. I don't really listen to a lot of other electronic dance music. I'm not really that big of a fan of too much of it. I really like R&B. I really like hip hop, older hip hop. I really like a lot of the new rap stuff. Love Kendrick Lamar's new thing. I'm a lover of music, and it's really hard to find. And no, don't get me wrong. There's some amazing, amazing electronic artists out there. I just haven't found them. But just in the scope of things that are in my field of view for what I do, I'm not too inspired. Yeah, a lot of my inspiration comes from other musical avenues.
This genre of music, like most genres of music that we know, it was created by us, by Black people. I was listening to 70s music, and I'm like, whoa, hold up. Some of this sounds, familiar. Some of this sounds very familiar. And it's because it's been sampled, it's been chopped and screwed, it's been everything, but it's at its core, a lot of it came around the 70s, disco era. I always find it interesting to see EDM be so white, but the main people who have been pushing this genre, like a lot of genres we know, have been Black, have been African Americans.
Sampling is where pretty much all this started. You've got disco, and then what kind of brought it even more forward, hip hop. which is a sampling culture. So yeah, that's two huge influences where African American individuals have a huge part to play in that. You're absolutely right.
Go back to what you said earlier about how bland everything is. And I'm like, it's essentially like the whitewashing of music. The stuff that people love about R&B, about hip hop, and about like just rap and all these genres that we made in general, like that the stuff that they wanted, it's like it's just whitewashed now. I'm not hating on EDC or anything, right? We're just saying like it's it's sanitized.
Yeah. And a big part of that from my experience is people are not hungry anymore because you don't have to do much to get something out of this right now. With how, you've got the internet, you've got social media, everything is just so readily available. There's a lack of hunger, there's a lack of ambition, and in turn that creates a lack of passion when it comes to the artistry of this craft right now. And it's really, really bad. And that's why I'm like, I like to stay hungry. I want to be competitive at this. And there's just people just don't care. They just will put out anything. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, I know this guy is going to put this song in a playlist and it's gonna do its thing and whatever. Like, what? Why are you doing this if you're not going to give it 100%? And people's 100% is people from 20 years ago's 10%. I don't know. I think just, and he's like, oh, I'm waiting for a change or something's got to change. But no, man, it's tough. It's really tough. That's why, I really resonate with what you said. You have to just be true to what you set for yourself because it's something you can control. So that's sort of my standpoint on it. You got to stay hungry. You got to find something that you can resonate with and attack that for yourself.
That's why I haven't given up completely on music, just like you haven't. Like I still listen to it, I consume it. I love the different new artists that I see coming up. And they're independent, so they're not going to get that shine as much. But I think of Kalela and Rochelle Jordan and Don Richards and all these Black men, women, people who are doing their thing and creating bomb music. They just don't, unfortunately, have that same sort of platform. And sometimes artists that have, like David Albarn from Gorillaz, like they will do collaborations, or Kingdom. It's another I think European producer who works with a lot of African American artists. But yeah, I'm like that's the people like yourself, people like Lero, people like some of the women I just listed. Like that gives me like hope, and that is what I'm tapped into because, like I said, it's what I can control. I can control my content, even though everything is so quick. It's like you can really customize what you're listening to nowadays, and I also appreciate that as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, the platform is definitely an interesting thing to kind of get a grasp of and get an understanding of, especially with the idea and concept of the platform today. There's a lot of other steps before I even get into the sort of platform thing. I think the stability thing kind of comes first, but they kind of go hand in hand because you need the platform to get the stability. But yeah, I just think people's perspectives and vision is kind of tunneled in the wrong direction, for the wrong direction for too long. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I've got a lot of peers who are like, man, I don't have any money. I don't have any, I always bring up money because that's what this kind of all comes back to. You got to live, especially in the frame of mind that the world is in right now. Bills got to be paid. Very, very precarious times. And a lot of people, this is, especially with COVID, and I feel like people, this is good information for a lot of other artists because this is a conversation that I've just recognized myself having with a lot of different people who might not know as much about how to sort of take control of their projects and create that stability. Like I said, a lot of people have these managers, they've got these agents, and like I said, they're spoon fed. So there's nothing that they really had to do. There's nothing that they really had to understand. And someone like myself, who's just kind of been figuring it out for themselves, has had, okay, I know about this, I know about that. And it's like being hungry will kind of lead you in the direction that you need to go because you'll be a student of the game. And being a student of the game is extremely important. If you don't understand the industry you're in, you're never going to make it.
Have you had an opportunity to work with other Black DJs And have you encountered a lot of bureaucratic red tape when it comes to dealing with labels?
It's absolutely red tape. Tape everywhere. It's very political, and it is. I hate to just be the guy who's just like, it's so bad, like, but golly, I mean, all I can do is reflect on my experience, and my experience has just been, to use the word again, it's been political. I have had the opportunity to work. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of Black African American artists, and a lot of it has just been just so, because a lot we fight amongst ourselves now. That's the thing. We can't really come together and think about the overall big picture, or the effects, or how it'll look, or the artistry behind it. It's tough because everybody wants what's best for them, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's got to be a give and a take to it. And that's just not there. There's just a lot of snakes. It's a lot of snaky things, and yeah, it's tough. It's very tough. It's hard to elaborate because I can't go all out on it, but hopefully the experience will get better, and I don't think things should be or need to be the way that they are right now. But yeah, I've had the opportunity to work with other Black African American artists. I just think that this sort of blandness is washing over into us as well, and it's because we're trying to get somewhere with this as well. So it's like, you got to play the game. As somebody says to me all the time, you got to play the game. I'm like, I'm not playing the game. I'm not going to play the game. I don't care if I don't get these opportunities that you guys get, because I'll be able to create an avenue for myself. Yeah, I think people just need to take their destiny into their hands and do what their heart is really telling them to, because a lot of people are being puppeted around. Bad going on than good, and nobody wants to talk about it. So, and conversation is where things start.
I agree. I think that you're echoing a sentiment that we've heard from artists when they really first started speaking up in the 90s. When they really first started saying, like, this is how little we make, this is what we take home, and this is what a lot of artists in the industry, regardless of race, but just more particularly for us and the sake of the focus of the podcast, Black people, we don't get in those positions of opportunity. And then, unfortunately, when we do get there, there are some of us who don't want to see the other person succeed, whether it's intimidation, whether it's greed. And it does make it hard to collaborate, connect, because, like you said, some of that stuff is just kind of seeping and seeping and seeping into the way we perceive one another when we're sitting in those boardrooms. Like you said, it comes back to money.
Yep, and it's like, oh man, I've worked so hard to get to this position. Why should I, let you have some of the pie? When I'm like, okay, but what we're doing here is, like, if, let's say we're working on a song, this is a 50-50 endeavor, as far as collaborating on a song, has nothing to do with what you got and what I got. We both put an amount of effort into this, which is not true, which is not true a lot of the times when it comes to music. I'll go ahead and say a lot of these times, and some big artist A wants to collaborate with mid-tier or small artist B. I'll tell you right now, small artist, mid-tier artist B is making a 90% of that song, and whatever the worst part of that song is, big artist A, that's what they did. And then you've got the splits, and it's all jacked up, and the label's gonna take 50%, and which is a standard label will take 50%. Then you're splitting that 25-25 amongst you and the other person who really didn't do anything, but they have the platform. So it's going to be the look, and I'll tell you right now, that's not going to get you anywhere. People don't, especially with other Black people. It's like it's like you're encroaching on their position, and they just. And I feel like it's like self entitlement, or just I struggle to find the word, but I don't know. It's sad. It's very sad, and it causes so much division amongst us, and there shouldn't be. So, and that's why nothing's changing, or why we can't take these steps forward. And this is so much bigger than just music. You're seeing this in so many different avenues of life. amongst us, and it's sad, we're fighting amongst ourselves when we should be the strongest unit amongst ourselves. But it's okay because in all that bad, there is good, you know, there is good. So you just got to find that.
Seeing artists come out and speak honestly and candidly about all the messed up stuff that goes on with the industry, that's important. That's an important part of your narrative, you know?
Right. I think a lot of people are scared that if they don't play the game or if they don't do this or go along with what the norm is, then they're not going to be able to be in these positions that they see these other people in. And I say that's not true, because I just take a look at from the standpoint of myself. I've got a lot of respect from these big artists now, but as far as like, people who have been made through these labels or made through getting on from these artists, and I've had none of that, and if I can sit here shoulder to shoulder with these people now and they can't say anything, then you can do the same thing. Everybody's path is different, and encroaching on somebody else's path isn't going to ruin it. It isn't going to ruin it for you. These people, everybody's path in life is different.
Last question, which is how can listeners support artists such as yourself? How can we show up for people who are interested in DJing?
So I guess a good example I can give is when COVID first started, a lot of people realized that shows, when it comes to DJing, and this is not a stable thing. They could be gone instantly, and everybody's just going to be sitting there, and that's where a lot of people say they make their money. That's where they make their stable money, is from these shows, which is not a stable occurrence. So now that the shows are gone, what are you going to do? And to give the quick nitty gritty of it is, I feel like artists aren't doing enough, aren't opening the avenues for fans to come and help support them, and whatever it is. Like what I did, and I thank COVID for this, because it helped me grow as an artist, it helped me grow as a business person, because now you have to figure out, okay, and I wasn't doing that many shows to begin with, but now there was even more sitting than before. So I expanded on my community as far as creating a place where we could interact with each other, and not just with each other, where they could interact with me, which is, what they really want to do. Creating avenues where you could interact with your fans is an extremely important thing. Like I have a Patreon where people can kind of pay a subscription like Netflix or something like that. But like, for me, I said, Lit Lords is creating music on Patreon. Fans who are dedicated to the movement, you can pay $10 a month. And I'm going to continue to bring you amazing content, amazing music, and it's an inclusive community for us. And, we're like a family. So that's something that I created, but it's something that both the artist and the fan get something beneficial out of. You can go look at the first 10 DJs that come to your mind. Do they have any of these things? Probably not. It's usually just, send me some money on PayPal. They'll have their Cash App. That's the equivalent of a beggar on the street holding their can out. What are you doing? Like, you got this, it's a give and take here, So I feel like a lot of people should, and this is something that I find myself in other conversation with other artists. I'm like, what are you doing? You just expect people to the path to be open for you? Like, no, you got to put in the work and create something meaningful, first of all, that people want to be a part of. I want to be the person, like a mentor of mine is always like, man, you want people like people wanted to be Michael Jackson. He had just so much going on as far as his movement and, what he stood for in our community. And even though what he did with himself, but whatever, it's a whole other thing. But, it meant a lot. And he was able to connect with people, which is something that I feel like in this field, artists are not doing. They don't really capitalize on that, connecting with the people who are essentially making their movement what it is. As far as I can only really speak on myself as far as that. If you were wanting to support, I would say Patreon. I would say just engagement, when it comes to when you see an artist that you like, make a post. Don't just look at it, like it. If there's something meaningful you can say and contribute to the post, make a comment, leave a comment, that really, really helps. The engagement thing goes a long way. I say a good way to help and mitigate that is, if there's an artist that you like and care about, when you see something, if there's something positive you can contribute, do so.
I know you have Instagram, right?
I have an Instagram, yes.
Instagram? No, Twitter. Yes, Instagram, Facebook.
I have a Facebook, yes. People underestimate the value of it. It's not as potent as it used to be, but there are still people there, especially if you've had a Facebook and all that since, if you came in the game when Facebook was still the main thing, because I was around when Instagram wasn't even made yet, it was just Facebook. So there are still people there, as we call them OGs. I feel like you have to try to service all your fans across all the different platforms. A lot of people, they just have Instagram now. All these artists, they just have Instagram. That's all they focus on. And I'm like, you can't put your eggs all in one box. So I'm posting stuff on other platforms that I don't post at all on Instagram. Like I've been on this TikTok thing now. I've been figuring it out. And it's funny now because now I'm old enough where I'm like, damn, I know how people felt when they were like the older people were like, yeah, I'm a Facebook person. And then Instagram comes out and they're like, holy shit, what is Instagram? Pictures, huh? And I'm like, TikTok, dances, what is videos only, vertical format? I'm like, oh my God. Like,
yeah.
Okay. I took it like, I'm not talking about my TikTok on Instagram or anywhere else. I'm like, I'm on TikTok and I'm taking it like I'm a new artist, like I'm making an entirely new fan base that loves me for something completely still music wise, but for something that I'm not usually bringing to light on other platforms. I think that's important. So you can have a diversity amongst your fans, and what's the point in bringing all the fans that you have on Instagram over to TikTok? You might as well just have them on Instagram, what's the point? So I'm trying to create new avenues. So, because what if Instagram goes out? Then what are you going to do? Well, then, your check mark, if you're verified, your check mark's gone. Now, what are you going to do? Oh, well, I've got 5 other check marks I can use. I've got 5 other audiences I can tap into, and that's just, people aren't very business savvy about all this, or, and then, like you said, people who are very antisocial, like I have the biggest anxiety when it comes to especially live shows. And that's just, that anxiety for me comes from a place of my expectations for myself when it comes to a performance. And that's something I've struggled with, since I've started doing shows, and, I've gotten a lot better with it. Just kind of, that's just coming to the realization for yourself and breathing. Sometimes you can be breathing, but you're not breathing, to really cement yourself in the moment and say, oh, everything's fine. I'm in control of what I have control of, and that's all that matters. And if you don't have control of it, don't make it a big deal. So I think that that's something that, like, if you're antisocial and you're not wanting to take certain approaches to whatever you have going on in your career, I think you should take a look at that and see, especially if it's something that can help you, because sometimes there are things that you got to do that will help you get better, that might be uncomfortable. So I think that's just taking a look deep inside yourself and being 100% honest and real with yourself, and just taking small steps towards there. It's something like anxiety is never going to go away 100%. It's something that you have to mitigate and something that you just have to be aware of, and that way you can conquer it. So, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. I feel like you said, anxiety doesn't go away. You can just manage it differently. You can release it through different avenues, like music, like painting. Any way you can express yourself. And yeah, you never know where you can go with that sort of mindset. But it feels good to at least have like some solutions. And for me, this is my outlet. The podcast is my outlet. Biking is my outlet. Listen to my friends talk shit is the outlet. It's all,
No shortage of that. That's for sure.
Yeah, it never gets old. Or we're talking about anime. So yeah, I think we all find our own ways.
Know that is?
No.
You ever seen Darling in the Franxx?
That's her.
That's her, 02. Yeah.
Yo, I can't do a tattoo on my neck. I'm too scared.
I've got a lot of tattoos, and I'll say that this one was the one that hurt the least. It didn't hurt at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was just a grizzled tattooer person now or what, but it didn't bother me at all.
I heard the more you get, the more like, but like the less it hurts. But I don't know how true that is because I feel like different surfaces, it's like
absolutely. Yeah, I got it on my rib cage. Tough. That was tough. And it wasn't my first one. It was tough. So
yeah.
But I mean, none of them were like, stop, please stop. I can't take it. Like it hurt,
yeah.
but I don't know. But I guess that person to person, it could be a little different, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you so much. Like, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for talking to me about what you do. I have so much respect for the work that y'all do. And don't give up, even if all that seems bad, like keep going. It seems like you've got a really strong fan base. And I think it's fantastic that we get these sort of opportunities to discuss what we do because it's awesome. Really, really awesome. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. It means a lot.